Ryan McDonough going back to what he knows best, being a Tampa Bay Lightning. He had these comments about his return to Tampa. Quote, "It's a very special place for me and my family. 2 of my kids were born there. Between that and winning, those were some big moments I had there. And it's a great community, a great place to raise your kids, and a great market to play hockey with an organization that's behind you. They're always going to go for the cup, so it's fun to be a part of that again." End quote. How much do you think Tampa and the Lightning missed the services of Ryan McDonough on that back end while he spent time in Nashville?
Well, I'll tell you, you go back to the 2 cup years, and I know, there's been an important kind of subtraction since then. Sergachev missing from the picture. But if you go back to the last cup year, really the 2 cup years, the top 4 for this group are Hedman, Chernak, Sergachev, McDonough. And, you insert McDonough back into the mix, it kind of leaves you feeling, JMO, a guy that's migrated along a little further in his career, of course, but they're getting back to that kind of, at least on paper, the way they dressed out that decor not that long ago. So it kind of leaves you feeling like they may have addressed some of that subtraction in Sergachev. Now, Sergachev, a guy that is really since those cup years, I think his maturation, development has kind of gone to a whole nother level.
Different skill sets, right?
Yeah, very much so.
What does Ryan McDonough bring to that back end, or any back end that he joins for that matter?
Well, I think more globally, he brings the experience. He brings a very strong and important voice of leadership inside the room. And then on the ice, we don't say this about every defender that takes to NHL ice, but he's got that warhorse mentality to him. He's got some offensive upside, but he's just a really skilled, really competitive defender. Takes a great deal of pride in that. Very willing from game 81 to game, 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, willing to put his body on the line, throw it in front of a puck to block a shot at a key moment. He's everything for every moment. So, I think a welcome addition back for this group, and a little of that, that institutional knowledge returns to the mix.
All right, so he's back in that Tampa dressing room, although that room is going to look a little bit different than the last time he was in there, because the guy wearing the C is now in the city that he just left.
Right.
As Steven Stamkos departs, and he's a Nashville Predator. McDonough had this to say about Steven Stamkos and him leaving Tampa. Quote, "That's the business side of hockey. Sometimes things don't go according to the way you think it will. Specifically for him, I can't speak for him, but I'm sure he wanted to stay. But I know he's thrilled about Nashville, too. It's a great opportunity for him and a great team down there as well." He goes on to say, "But for us, we have to move forward and put faith in our group and trust the coaching staff to put together a good game plan to fill that void left by Stammer. And that's what we'll do. Just keep building from day 1 of camp." What do you make of Steven Stamkos leaving, and what this Tampa team now looks like without the guy who's worn the C for so many years?
Yeah, regret to see him leave without question, but that's the business of hockey. I mean, now that we live in a hard cap world, and that cap comes, with the Tampa Bay Lightning forced to make a really hard decision.
It comes with winning too, right?
It does. It comes with winning. The more success you have, the more compensation these players demand. It cuts against you in that respect. And I think by now, even Steven Stamkos and certainly the Tampa Bay Lightning realized this is the unfortunate downside of all the success this group has had in the past, and they're forced to move on. I think Stamkos will continue to flourish as a member of the Nashville Predators. That club benefits from his pedigree, his experience, and all that he's been through, and certainly his on-ice contribution. A tough figure and presence on the ice to replace when you're focused on a guy that's been captain of this franchise for so long. I go back a couple of years, first ever 100-point season for him. Remember, Kucherov is banged up out of the gate, and I think Point might have been missing as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of pressure on the rest of the group to pick up their socks and carry the momentum while these 2 are out. Stamkos started the regular season on a tear, maintained that production, that pace of production, and again, had his first ever 100-point season into his 30s. It just shows you, here's a guy that knows how to rise to the moment, knows what, true leadership looks like.
Yeah.
That's hard to replace.
All right, Stammer's not there, but they didn't just sit on their hands all summer. They did bring in Jake Gensel. He might have been the biggest free agent out there. With the way this roster looks now, and you saw the comments from Ryan McDonough, he likes that Tampa they go for the cup every year. They have a chance to win the cup every
Yeah.
year. Do you buy that? Is Tampa still a legitimate Stanley Cup contender this season?
You wouldn't expect to hear anything different out of that room with respect to their opportunity.
What about this room right here?
This room right here. I'm getting to that part. Hang on, JMO. There are some brilliant, brilliant clubs on paper and certainly what they've shown us in the past, like the Florida Panthers, like the New York Rangers. Two clubs specifically who have evolved a lot since Tampa was rattling off cup wins back to back. Those clubs will have something to say about that. I will say this, given the abundance of experience that still exists inside that locker room, given Kucherov, given Gensel, Hedman on the back end, McDonough returns, and when you've got Vasilevsky, you got a fighting chance every night. There's a narrow path for Tampa to get there, to be standing up as one of the last two teams end of the year. But there's a path nonetheless, in my estimation. It would take a lot of things coming into alignment, but this team has what it takes, at least in terms of that veteran core experience.
Yep, time will tell, but
We'll
it
see.
certainly seems like that window is still open down there in Tampa.